welcome back to Reading the Bible Together. Pastor Matt alongside Matt Kunkel today.
Matt Squared.
Matt Squared. Matt's been on Reading the Bible Together before when we were going through the Gospel of Luke with Autumn. So we're excited that he came back and is joining me this week. We're going to be reading through Galatians chapter 4. So I'll let you get us started, Matt.
All right, here we go. What I am saying is that as long as an heir is underage, he is no different from a slave, although he owns the whole estate. The heir is subject to guardians and trustees until the time set by his father. So also when we were underage, we were in slavery under the elemental spiritual forces of the world. But when the set time had fully come, God sent his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those under the law, that we might receive adoption to sonship. Because you are his sons, God sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, the Spirit who calls out, Abba, Father. So you are no longer a slave, but God's child, and since you are his child, God has made you also an heir.
Formerly, when you did not know God, you were enslaved to those that by nature are not God's. But now that you've come to know God, or rather, to be known by God, how can you turn back again to the weak and worthless elementary principles of the world, whose slaves you want to be once more? You observe days and months and seasons and years. I'm afraid that I may have labored over you in vain. Brothers, I entreat you to become as I am, for I also have become as you are. You did me no wrong. You know it was because of a bodily ailment that I preached the gospel to you at first. And though my condition was a trial to you, you did not scorn or despise me, but received me as a messenger of God, as Jesus Christ. What then has become of this blessing you felt? For I testify to you that if possible, you would have gouged out your eyes and given them to me. Have I then become your enemy by telling you the truth? They may make much of you, but for no good purpose. They want to shut you out, that you may make much of them. It is always good to be made much of for a good purpose, and not only when I'm present with you, my little children, for whom I am again in anguish of childbirth until Christ is formed in you. I wish I could be present with you now and change my tone, for I'm perplexed about you.
Tell me, you who want to be under the law, are you not aware of what the law says? For it is written that Abraham had two sons, and by the slave woman and the other by the free woman. His son by the slave woman was born according to the flesh, but his son by the free woman was born as a result of a divine promise. These things are being taken figuratively. The women represent two covenants. One covenant is from Mount Sinai and bears children who are to be slaves. This is Hagar. Now Hagar stands for Mount Sinai in Arabia and corresponds to the present city of Jerusalem, because she is in slavery with her children. But the Jerusalem that is above is free, and she is our mother. For it is written, Be glad, barren woman, you who never bore a child. Shout for joy and cry aloud, you who are never in labor, because more are the children of the desolate woman than of her who has a husband. Now you, brothers and sisters, like Isaac, are children of promise. At that time the son born according to the flesh persecuted the son born by the power of the Spirit. It is the same now, but what does the Scripture say? Get rid of the slave woman and her son, for the slave woman's son will never share in the inheritance with the free woman's son. Therefore, brothers and sisters, we are not children of the slave woman, but of the free woman.
All right. Chapter 4 of Galatians. A lot going on. But what's standing out to you, Matt?
I guess, I always like to see what I've highlighted. And for me, I definitely have highlighted just verse 5, which is to redeem those under the law that we might receive adoption to sonship. And probably just that idea of like, what adoption is just a beautiful thing. And just talking about it gets me just emotional, and just that, like, what does it really mean to be a son or a daughter? And we are so focused on the blood and the genes of those things, but sons and daughters are people who are are loved by their parents, right? Who honor their parents,
Yeah.
And then if God makes us one of His kids, we're just one of His kids,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just really that would be a thing as a younger Matt would have just glossed over.
Sure.
And now that I'm older, and I have my own children, I go,
Yeah.
God made me His son, and He can make any one of us His children. It's just awesome. So.
No, I love that. I also have that section underlined, that if we're children of God, we're heirs of God.
Yeah.
Right? And so that sticks out to me too. That like you are a prince and I am a prince, and princesses are daughters, or princesses, our sons are princes of God's heavenly kingdom, and that there is so much we worry about, right? I think in this life, but if God. He says elsewhere, if God is for us, like who can be against us? And we're going to have a lot of people against us, but that victory is going to go through God. What's this chapter doing for your faith? What does it mean for your faith?
I think like it's a lot of hope. Even the Hagar and Sarah stuff, which can get a little bit like he's drawing an analogy there. But I really just think like there's hope. I think about it in a hope because. Even those Old Testament verses they use, it's out of Isaiah right there, where it says, a woman who is never in labor is going to have more children, right? Than her who has a husband. I think God is just hope incarnate, right? Jesus is hope incarnate for us, and so when I think about this, I go, man, it's kind of in the weeds with those kind of comments, but what is he getting at? But I think of what he's getting at is like there is hope in Jesus for us. And I love this idea, like, the world might say something about you because of your lack of offspring or your lack of fruit in your life or something like that, or maybe just like some outward thing they can judge about you. But in Jesus and in this faith, there's and in sonship, like from before, and being a child of God, like there's just so much hope for your life and so much promise for your life that has nothing to do with an outward way someone can look at you. Is what I love about when they use those kind of Old Testament things to what God's saying there. So
that's awesome. And I think to underline a bit of that, right? When we look back at the Old Testament and we see Abram given the promise before he becomes Abraham, and he's super old, and he kind of is like, I'm going to have a son at this age, and my wife, who's old and barren, is going to have give birth. Like, no, like that's impossible.
Right,
and then when we see they take the initiative into their own hands, right? That's where Sarai, before she has her name changed by God, they say, "Oh, well, use my slave woman," and that's where Ishmael comes from. And yet, even in the casting out of Hagar and Ishmael, God is still caring for Hagar in the Old Testament, still caring for Ishmael. And then now, Paul's saying it's actually Jerusalem. It's those who are still looking for the Messiah in Jerusalem when the Messiah has already come. The promise has already arrived. And so we want to be children of the promise. We want to be children who are free. And that only happens by following King Jesus. A lot of deep meaning, I think, when we're connecting it back, and Paul's using those metaphors. But we've read chapter 4. What are you going to do today?
Well, I was going to say you kind of ended on that's my takeaway. Is like let's walk around like we know who our dad is. You know, like let's walk around like children of the promise, and not children of like fear and scarcity and anxiety but like children who know that there's a God who loves them, that they know there's a God who's watching after them. And I'm not saying that's easy, right? Man, is it awesome when you can even just have a few interactions in the day or a few things where you go, I walked out in confidence of who I knew my father was, you know. So
man, that's a great attitude. I want to take a little bit of that. I'll go back to the beginning of chapter 4 though. when the fullness of time had come, that concept of the right time or the kairos moment. Today I'm going to be looking for those kairos moments, those kind of not chronological, not time on the clock, but the right time of God. I want to see maybe some reflection on those moments for what God is wanting to point out in my life, in my relationships, or in ministry. But what about you? If there's something that sticks out to you in chapter 4, we'd love if you dropped it in the comments. But otherwise, Matt and I are going to keep reading all week, and we hope you'll join us.